Welcome to the Balancing Ambitions podcast. I'm your host, Kim Menapace. You are not alone in your pursuit to balance family life, work, side hustles, and taking care of yourself. Balance is not easy to achieve by any means, but we can all work to get better at it together by sharing our stories, tips, and wisdom. Let's dive into this week's episode. All right. I am super excited for our guest today. We have Lorie-Lyn Fernandes. So Lorie-Lyn is the Director of Enterprise Applications at CarGurus. That's under our engineering team, but she also has a photography business on the side. So I'll turn it over to you, Lorie-Lyn, to introduce yourself. Welcome to the Balancing Ambitions podcast.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here. I've been doing photography for probably about 15 plus years now and launching my career at the same time. So it's been quite the journey and quite a lot of things I've learned along the way, and it's been really fun.
How did you first get into photography?
So my family did a lot of dog showing growing up, and it was kind of expensive to have the photographers take pictures at the dog show. And my dad bought a camera for me, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. It was so much fun. And it kind of grew from there. I started taking pictures of our dogs, and then it was like the family, and then it grew. A couple friends wanted pictures when I was a teenager. And then when I was in college, I saved up enough, got a bigger camera, and it just snowballed from there, and just word of mouth it grew. And then I've always had a tendency to try to make money off whatever hobby I have to try to pay for the hobby. And then I started just charging and growing from there. And as it became more and more of actually like, okay, I'm actually making a little side income from this, it just grew into an actual photography business. And now I make it what I want. If I want to blow it up, I can. If I want to scale it back, depending on the season of life I'm in, it's fun. It's my creative outlet. And it also, I love business stuff. I love taking that apart and figuring out how that works and the best ways and the different strategies, and meeting with people like you who have their own businesses and how they do it. And it's been fun. It's my little side hobby. It's my little side income, and helps pay for some Disney trips. It's fun.
Oh man, there's so much I want to unpack in there. So, one, I love that philosophy of, hey, I have a hobby. Hobbies can be expensive, and I'd love to make money to cover the hobby. And then it sounds like it's even been more lucrative than that, where you can have some play money with it. So, have you done that with any other hobbies?
I tried. I wasn't as successful, but I'll walk you through a couple. My family jokes with me because I'm a collector of hobbies, and they say like I will go out and buy all the things that you need for the hobby, but never actually do the hobby. And photography was a little different because I just loved it and I really enjoyed it. So I did try to, I was pretty successful at it, but it became too much work. I set up during COVID a boy store. I'm a mom. I have a little boy. He's 5 years old now. He was little at the time, and I couldn't do photography. We were in the middle of COVID, and I liked the break, but at the same time, I was kind of itching. And I was like, I need something to fill this time that I used to do photography with. Not that my son kept me busy, but it was I needed the outlet for myself. I needed that time to be creative and do stuff. So I started designing bags for kids and clothing and different things, and working with different designers and making my own things. So I made a boy mom's rule store for that time. It did pretty well. It wasn't as successful as my photography, but I learned a ton about marketing and a ton about product marketing versus creative marketing and service marketing, which is completely different. I'm still not a marketing guru, but I learned a ton. And I probably would have kept it going, but it just became too labor intensive for me, and COVID started dying down. And so I started getting inquiries again for photography work, and I really enjoyed my photography. So I had to make a decision. Do I keep it going? Do I do photography more? And my photography love went out, so I shut it down. But that one was fun. I also anything, my husband jokes because I'm like, let's franchise that. Let's look back. That looks fun. I also looked at just like little crafting things. I had a craft store. A friend of mine owns a craft store up the street, and I was putting things in there and selling things in there, and that was fun for a while. But photography always wins out, so I tend to go back down to that. I like painting as well. So at one point I sold a couple paintings. And I don't think I'm a good painter. My mom has all my paintings somewhere in her house, which I love and adore, and it's so sweet of her. But I did sell one, so we made some money back on the paint, but it was just not short-lived.
You're well on your way to those six streams of income. You know what love about your story is you actually really like the business side of things. And we've talked brass tacks about things like accounting and marketing and bookkeeping and legal and all that stuff. And so I think a lot of people get into these hobbies and create a business out of something creative, but struggle with that side of it. So to have that well-roundedness, I think is unique and special. And I remember you actually giving advice to other photographers and other people, small business owners, on that stuff, and contemplating maybe doing consulting in that vein, because there is a need for it. I think you find the strength and the creativity typically, and the business comes second.
Yeah, yeah. And I've talked to a number of folks, especially smaller businesses, where because of my engineering background, my computer science degree, I didn't want to code all the time, and I knew that wasn't something I wanted to do with my life, but I had a computer science degree. It's like, okay, how do I make money off of this? And enterprise applications fit that space where it's you have to know the business, but you have to know the technical, and you have to know how to weave back and forth. And I really enjoy that space of understanding the business and weaving it into the technical and coming up with solutions that can make people more efficient, save time, money, whatever it is. And so that mentality and that framework for my day-to-day just fit perfectly with my photography business, just at a much smaller scale. And what I found with talking to friends or other, I'm in multiple like small business groups, just on like Facebook and on this and LinkedIn and such. They were asking very simple questions, what I thought was simple, but I realized like that deeper understanding of the technology kind of unlocks that piece. So giving them a little bit of insight from a technical perspective, even if I didn't understand their full business plan or their business processes, but understanding as simple as like the nail salon I go to, they're struggling with keeping up with appointments. It's like, okay, how can we automate this for you so you don't have to pick up the call and interrupt while you're doing someone's nails and save that time. Little things like that, which just they don't understand what technology is available to them. Just unlocking that will sometimes just drive a business from struggling and doing what they can, still being profitable, to like the next level and saving time and efficiency. So I enjoy it. I sometimes have to scale myself back when I'm in small businesses and not be like, hey, do you know you can do that better? It just comes naturally to me. But most people are receptive and appreciative. And I always learn a ton from talking to different business owners of what they're doing and how they're doing it. And we grow from each other and learning from each other. So it's fun.
It's so true. When you go out into the world and see either things done really well from a business sense or things not done so well, you can't help but see it and have that lens for viewing the world once you've learned a lot of these skills. And I hadn't made that connection between your day job. I kind of glossed right over how you're the director of enterprise applications. And I'd love to go back and quickly double click on this one. So if how would you describe what a director of enterprise applications does to your 5-year-old son, for example?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. He's actually asked me that before, and I struggle to answer it. So I may struggle still, but I'll try my best. Um, Anything that is used by an internal team to make them more efficient or be able to do their jobs, we try to enable them with technology. And that's how I look at it. I have an amazing team. They're just phenomenal engineers. And we look at things like CRM platforms and billing platforms. And, when you're thinking about the accounting clerk that's sitting there entering invoices, how can you make their job easier? And it's not to remove their job. We're always going to need a clerk, but how can you make their job easier? Rather than that tedious data entry, can you automate the data entry so that they can do more analysis work, or be, pulling together reports a little easier and doing more high level impact work? And that's really the goal of enterprise applications. How can you enable internal teams at the company to be more productive and more efficient? And with AI in the space, it adds a whole different dimension of like how much we can do and what we can do. Some AI is there and we can implement it, some's not. And it's a nice thing because, like I said, you have to meld to that business process. and really understand why they're doing their process. And I think that's the key piece that differentiates just a traditional, what you would think of like a software engineer versus an enterprise application engineer. They really have to understand the full impact forward and backwards of their change into a platform. You're already layering on top of usually a SaaS-based application or a homegrown application, and changing one field that might be used by 3 different platforms down, and understanding how that all works is important from a technical perspective, but how that impacts everyone's job is also important. So if you go back to that accounting clerk, they're entering an invoice that might trigger a billing notification that might, at the end of the day, make it to a collections team. And if you mess up the automation at the beginning, now you're not just messing up that accounting clerk's day, you're messing up 3 other teams that rely on that data being accurate. So it's taking that to account and understanding how that full impact from start to finish, and whatever business you're in and whatever capacity you're in, how that works. And I take that and I apply it to my business. Like, I was taking every phone call and, sometimes sacrificing time with my son to have a 30-minute, 45-minute call with a mom who wants to have their pictures done, but they don't know when, they don't know where. And so now I have like an automated process. They submit a request, it automates an email to them with, here's the times that are available, here's the type of sessions, here's the type of thing. If you're still interested, reply back, and then that triggers a task for me to call them back. And now they're a little more prepared for the conversation. Now it's usually like a quick 20-minute conversation. I've cut down on the time. Most of the time it's done in 10 minutes. They're like, I like this. I want to go to the beach. I want to have my kid. Do you do 2-year-olds? Do you do 5-year-olds? And it just makes the process more efficient.
And I think that you don't realize how many softwares, even a small business like your photography business or our Airbnb management business has. So we probably subscribe to at least 30 softwares. And then CarGurus, keep me honest on this one, it's in the hundreds of softwares that we subscribe to. And I think that was a great point to say your teams manage the internal systems that don't touch the shoppers on our site or the car dealerships directly, I should say. And you're right, it's Salesforce and our CRM, and that's syncing up to our subscription billing software, et cetera, et cetera. And I found it really fun and fascinating to work on in this group and in this team during COVID, because all of my customers were accessible because they're internal. They're not a dealership that's, someone working in a dealership that's super hard to get a hold of, because when they talk to me, they aren't selling a car, so they don't want to talk to me. But that billing clerk, that salesperson, all of those people were under our roof, figuratively speaking. So it was very cool to go talk to them and peel the onion back to understand why they're asking those things. For example, in our old Salesforce system, we found that I think it was something like 45% of the time when someone would send a contract out to a customer, it would trigger an approval from a manager. So way too much signal to noise ratio there. And so we had to dig deep into why that was going on. And sometimes you can't fix it in that. You have to fix it in your next iteration and in your rebuilding of a system. But I find it fascinating at that detective skill. And you're right, you can apply it to small businesses. And I think it's okay to invest. I think that when you are a small business, you think, okay, what do I need to I just want a website. I can figure it out. I'll answer those calls. Maybe I'll pay for a Google Voice number, but you can get this creep of softwares, and I understand not wanting to go too far because it can eat up a lot of money, but I think there probably is a finite number that'll really save you a lot of headaches, and make you more efficient. And so, it's worth that investment and trade-off.
There's definitely a threshold of the software being effective for you versus you're having to work the software. And there's that fine line. And I see it more with like small to medium-sized businesses, where when they were small, they're trying a bunch of things, and then they didn't really have their business process set up, and then they go to medium and then they have to scale up, and it's like, oh wait, we have all this red tape. How did we do that? And to your example of the approvals, that's like a perfect example of the solution might be a business process solution, not a technical one. And so you have to do these little iterations in your business and the different flavors of your business to say, is this serving me well right now? And will it get me to the next stage? And then when you're at the next stage, have that reevaluation. Is this going to serve me in this time and to the next thing? And it's the same with small businesses, large corporations, everything. It's always that iteration of, is this serving me well today? Not just from a technology perspective, but also a business perspective. Is this process going to serve me and help me scale up? And if the answer is no, go back and look at it and check it out. See if you can do a change to it.
And I think also what your long-term goal is, how much you want to grow and scale, how you want to exit your business. All of those things can play a factor as well. I want to pivot really quick. I had remembered a story about you having an incident with your photography business and you actually shut it down for a while. And then I saw it come back. If you'd love to, I'd love to hear, because I think some people get frustrated. I've had moments where I wanted to quit our Airbnb management business, and you think you're dealing with difficult guests and things of that nature, and it just can be really hard, and you want to throw your hands up and just give it all up. So love to hear that, because I think a lot of people can relate to that and being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So this was November timeframe. It was for Christmas photos, and I had a family, they were desperate to hire me, and I broke all of my business rules. I was like, they really want to get it done. I love doing natural light photography outside. They wanted indoor because it was cold, and I found a space that I could rent to make it happen. I was missing time with my son, who was a baby at the time, and I was already having that mom guilt of like, oh, I'm leaving the house. I have a super amazing, supportive husband. So like it was purely mom guilt that I was going. And I went and I got there. I set up, I had to go earlier than I normally go. So it was extra time because I had to set up all the cameras and the lighting and everything for indoors. And they showed up. The husband did not want to be there. He was disgruntled and upset, did not want to smile for anything. So his move rubbed off on his kid, and she was honestly fine. Normal 3-year-olds. Any mom who has gone to photos, you just run with it. You make the best that you can do. But he was making it worse. And then it was almost like a brawl between wife and husband at this shoot. And I'm sitting there going, I am wasting my Saturday afternoon that I can be with my son and with my husband, who I haven't seen all week because I'm working. And I'm sitting here doing this. And I hit that point at that time. It was around the holidays, and I know a lot of stuff was coming up. And I was like, I'm done. This is the last session I'm doing. I'm not doing this anymore. And I shut it down for probably a year, to be honest. It was a year, and COVID also happened like 6 months later. So that also didn't help the cases. But I was just, I think I hit a point of, I never wanted my photography, you were talking about what your goals of your business are. I want to be a CIO one day, and I knew like my career was my priority. This was my fun outlet and kind of my creative outlet. I never wanted to be a full-time business. And I was sitting here going, I spent all this time with this woman setting up this date, going through everything, getting the contract setting up all the equipment, getting there. The photos, they were okay. Were they my best work? No. So I felt shitty about that. It didn't feel good. And it was just a bad experience. So I shut it down. And honestly, I took a little hiatus. That was around the time I started the boy mom the boy mom rules, because I was itching. I was like, I need something. I need that outlet for myself. And I missed it. I just truly missed it. And I had a discussion with my husband of like, do I start up again? Do I not start up again? I mean, it was so bad. I kind of stopped taking pictures of my son too. And my mom, who I absolutely love and adore, she's like, you need to take pictures of your son. And I'm so grateful she did. Thank you, Mom, if you ever listen to this, because I kept taking pictures of my family and everything. But it was just that point of, do I even want to start this again? And do I want to put the energy into it? So when I started it back up, I was very clear in my goals of what I wanted to get done, how much time I wanted to spend and get done. Up to that point, I did a lot of the things to myself. I did my own marketing, I did my own accounting, I did all editing. I've outsourced a lot of that stuff. I found what price points worked and what was feasible at the time. And I outsourced that thing. So time is more valuable to me. And I tried to trade the time for money a little bit there and just say, okay, if I'm gonna take 4 sessions a year or 4 sessions a month, sorry. Is that going to make my goals? And how is it going to make me goals? And then I also had to go back and look at my business and say, am I pricing myself accordingly to make this profitable for myself? Because like you said, you have the applications, QuickBooks, and I have the photography storage system, and the how you deliver the clients, the contracting thing, everything. So I had to find a new price point that would allow me to have more time back, still be profitable, but hold my ground. So now I don't do indoor shoots anymore. That's one of my hard no's. I have a list of amazing photographers that do it. I no longer take calls for small weddings. I God bless photographers that do small weddings. It's a lot of work for a little pay. I still second shoot for a photographer in the area if she needs one for a wedding, but I'm very prescriptive of how many I take on per year, because that's an all-day commitment and I don't want to take away from my family time. So I'm very prescriptive of when and how and all that stuff. And yeah, it's been better since I put those guardrails in place.
I'm hearing boundaries. That's what I'm hearing loud and clear. I'm so big on boundaries. People probably hear me talk about that exhaustingly.
Yes, yes, big time boundaries.
I love that. So you touched on this, but I'd love to go a bit deeper on if you hire help. Do you hire help in any way, shape, or form? You're a busy mom working full time as a director at a large software company. You have a 5-year-old son, husband. You have an adorable dog, as well. And then you have this photography business. So yeah, do you hire help in other ways?
100%, and I have a lot of help. Um, First and foremost, I have to thank my parents and my in-laws because they watch my son during the week while he's growing up, and that has been tremendously helpful for me. Has saved us a lot of money, and I'm truly appreciative of that. And now that he's going to school, they're going to help up with picking up, and I still get to do drop-offs in mornings, and they'll still get time with their grandson, which they absolutely love. So it'll be great. So that's one big help right out the door. Can't stress enough, if your family's willing to help, please try to take them up on it if it makes sense for your family dynamics, because it's a huge help. I do have housekeepers that come. And we didn't always. It was definitely not affordable in all seasons of life. But we, again, like the business thing, keep reevaluating. Where are you? And they come. I have 2 amazing women that come. They're here for 2 hours. My house looks amazing when they leave. And if I were to do the work that they were doing 2 hours and the amount of money I pay, I'd be down for a Saturday just cleaning. And that's time I want with my family. So that was one. When I restarted my photography, I hired an accountant, and I really debated with that one because I said, this is stuff I know how to do. And is this something I want to pay someone for? And I had to sit down and think, all right, I usually did my photography, not the actual taking the pictures, but the photography work after my son went to bed. And now that he's gotten older, bedtime keeps creeping back and back. So I'm like, I'm now taking away from my rest time. And is this worth it for me? Because then I'm just cranky for everyone the next day, and that's not serving anyone in any capacity. So definitely hired an accountant. The marketing, I use a contracting firm and bits and pieces. I don't advertise too much because I have a good referral base, but I'm terrible at social media. It's just one of my weaknesses. So they help me out with that when needed. And we have landscapers come a couple times a year, help clean up that, and my husband keeps it. That's my husband's outlet. He likes to go outside and work on the yard, but we have a bigger yard, so once or twice a year they come and do the big cleanup, and that gives us time back. And I have laundry service that comes. Laundry is the bane of my existence. I I'm such an organized person, and I cannot get my act together with laundry. And we found a reasonably priced service that will pick up on Monday, deliver on Thursday, and I just have to put away, and it saves me so much time. It's now like it's almost turned into a little activity with my son. When he gets his clothes, he's like, let me put my underwear in the drawer. And I'm like, yay, go, yay. We're gonna ride that ship until he figures out that it's a chore. But If I can find help and it makes feasible sense in our family finances, I'm 100% going to take it because the time back I get so much more valuable to me. So much more valuable.
We're right there with you with a number of those. And a couple of points I'd love to call on are involving your kids. So we try to do that as well. They don't want to clean up their own toys. We still say, hey, we have to put the magnet tiles away before we'll play with Candyland or something. But it's funny, the boring tasks, like if they see me get a cleaning spray for the table, oh, can I help? And they jump in, or they try to get the Swiffer for the ground, for the floor and the wet vac one. And so it's so funny. Everything we think is boring, like vacuuming the car or doing those things, they are so interested in right now at this age. And it's also just good life skills for them to have, because when they're 22, they're not going to be able to probably afford a housekeeper too. There was years and years we didn't either. And then we've built our way up into that. So I think that's something that's been fun, and finding that balance, because yeah, we have help for laundry. And even at our house in Cape Cod, we don't have laundry. So we just drop it off at a wash, dry, fold place. And it's amazing. So even if we got a laundry unit, I'd probably still continue to do that, because I, again, hate that stuff too. And it sounds like you probably you've shifted how you've utilized help over time, and you've increased it. And if you're like me, you probably want to continue to increase that. And you're constantly evaluating that too. And I think there can be things that you like, but just don't have time for now, or things that you don't enjoy. One of the things that I don't enjoy doing is trying to rush to make dinner. So we like to go to the playground after daycare pickup. And then when we come back, we try to keep the routine going for bedtime. And we don't want it to be 30 minutes after we get back finally from the playground that we finally do dinner, and then bath, and then bed, and creep even later than is good for our kids. So that's something that we've had to start leveraging more resources like meal delivery services or prepping stuff ahead of time. But I don't even love that. So I'm going to get help probably with that too. But finding that balance and constantly reflecting and tweaking is so critical.
I tend to, if I can trade money for time and it makes sense, and we have like not all seasons of life can you afford it or is it feasible, but if it makes sense and I'm getting more time back, I'm going to do it. I think that's one of the things I really myself struggled with, because I'm such a perfectionist in my career, in my home life, and my husband and I joke, we kind of run our house like a business sometimes. We're like, this should be a place, our sanctuary, and not a place of business. And we have to change our mindset sometimes around that, because both him and I are perfectionists, and sometimes this doesn't play well if you're trying to run your house like, like a business. But um, it's always that trade-off of, can I have someone else do this, and I'm helping improve their life because they're getting an income and I'm getting time back. And I used to view it as I'm guilty and I'm not a good mom because I'm not doing this. But I've had to change that mindset of like, no, it's okay that they're taking care of this piece, because now I get to sit and spend time with my son. And those, by the time I finish up work and he's home, it's usually 6. He starts going to bed at 7:30. It's a short window that I have during the week. And so those little things, like you said, like those meal delivery services, just the little tiny things add up. And instead of 30 minutes sitting trying to, don't cook, I gotta be honest, but my husband will, he gets to sit and engage and play with us too, and have that time back as a family. So where I can trade money for time, 100%.
And I think doing it even when it's a stretch. I am not saying be careless by any means, but sometimes you can feel like you're on the cusp, or I'd love to do this, but I can't. But if you continue to say that, you're going to go 10, 20, 30 years, and that I can't never changes. And so I think that finding those labors of love with your day job and your other outlets, you're going to bring different energy to those when you aren't up late folding laundry for an extra half hour last night, or you got your workout in instead of cooking meals for the week, because I have meal delivery service doing that. So I think sometimes that we've had a stretch, and it probably, if we asked our financial advisor or someone if we should do X and hire someone, they'd probably be like, no, you should keep doing it yourself. But knowing that bigger picture and all of those trade-offs and these intangible things that are harder to measure. I think that I'd recommend stretching a bit and leveraging that time for family, for your labor of love, your hobby, just extra rest time. Just like you mentioned, how you would do the bookkeeping for your photography business after your son goes to bed, and you realize, hey, I don't need it, even though I know how to do this. Should I be doing that and be cutting into my sleep time? We've burned the midnight oil, both of us, a number of times, and that's something that I'm just done doing now. That was something that I had to change and make a new boundary for myself. If I get up super early, it's because I'm going to the gym, not because I'm doing things for my business anymore.
Yeah, it's a balance, and I don't think, do I ever feel like I got it right? No. There's always stuff where I feel like, oh, okay, I could have done yesterday better. But for me, money has always been a tool. And I've always felt like money will show up when I need it. I'm a big manifester, and this has always been since I was little, I've always viewed money as a tool. I don't know, it's just this innate thing in me. I'm like, money will get there, we'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to get it. And even with my son now, I've realized I've changed my language when I talk to him. Like, of course he wants 100 toys. Of course. And so we go to the store and he's like, Mom, I want that toy. And it's like a $60 toy. He really doesn't need it. And instead of saying, oh, we can't afford it or it's too much money, I'm like, well, what can we do to earn it? How can you make the money to get it? And it's just changing those vocabularies, starting that little, but also for yourself. Like, I don't like thinking about the housekeeper thing. That was a big thing when my husband and I first hired housekeepers, because one, it's you're inviting people into your space, and so that's a little unnerving, and you're like, how's this going to work? Hide the valuables. You feel insecure having someone come to your house. But we were also a younger couple, so it's like, do we have people come to our house when we could really do this to ourselves and go back and forth? But looking at that and saying, okay, how can we get housekeepers and not have this hit our finances that have that big of an impact? And maybe, when we first started, it was once a month. Now we're bi-weekly, but it's the season, and we've been lucky. We've gotten, elevated in our roles. Photography business has gone well. But also looking at what's not serving you well and kicking that to the curb, because there were things that we were paying for, like TV subscriptions, or at one point we had like a coffee subscription. I don't drink coffee, my husband does, but he wasn't going through all the coffee that we had subscribed. So it was also looking at what's not serving you and getting rid of that to make room for what is serving you. And that's really important too, because I think people tend to, I know I do at least, gravitate to what they know. And when they're trying to reach for something that's in front of them, you have to let go sometimes to reach forward. And that's a decision point, and you have to look at what's going on in your life. Does it make sense as a family dynamic? Does it make sense for your finances? And like you said, you can stretch it, of course, but you also don't want to put yourself in a situation that you're building debt up, and you're then feeling overwhelmed by that either. So finding the middle ground is good.
And I like about your philosophy that money is a tool. And I think we'll prune our expenses as well at times, not a ton. I think just looking once in a while is good, and not maniacally focusing on all the money going out in debt, because it's just like manifesting and attracting. I want to keep looking at new opportunities and new ways to serve. I a couple months ago had changed my attitude around money and thought, if I'm not feeling a sense of gratitude for that thing, like I really like and enjoy my Netflix subscription, then I would let it go. Audible, I paused for a while, and now I'm listening to Audible more, but I wasn't using it. I had a ton of credits built up, and I said, okay, I can either pause or cancel. But if I truly enjoy it and I feel a sense of gratitude, and that's even for things that are like non-negotiable, like your utilities. Instead of saying, oh my goodness, my electric bill was, I don't know, $1,000 this month because of the central AC and it was a crazy hot summer, you can say thank you. You can think about it for gratitude and saying, wow, I'm so lucky to have a home with central AC and have these comforts that not everyone has. And it was just really interesting to flip that around and think of every dollar going out as a place of gratitude. And if it's not that way, then I probably shouldn't be paying for that service if I don't enjoy it or it doesn't bring me whatever I'm trying to hire that service for.
Yeah, I love that. I love the gratitude thing. It's 100%. You have to, eh, the more you are gratitude for, the more you attract in. And I think that is super important. So I love your myth, a dollar out, gratitude.
Every dollar you should think about for gratitude. Yeah. And I did not have that attitude not too long ago, but I've done a lot of work. We've talked offline about this, a lot of work in this space of manifestation and law of attraction and all of those things. We could do a whole episode on that. But I'll spare us. And that time
For
is also
hours.
yeah, hours and hours we could do. So maybe I'll have you back and we can talk about that. But I want to be respectful of your time and wrap this up because we could obviously go on for hours and hours ourselves on any topic. But yeah, I want to part ways with asking if you have any final words of advice for other folks who are trying to balance multiple facets of their life.
I boundaries. I think that's important, and really understanding what you're trying to get out of it, because where I see even my friends, my family, other colleagues, where they start to flounce is when they're trying to be everything for everyone, whether that's in your family life or your business or your career. Set the boundaries and figure out what's actually attainable and what your actual goal is, and just be really clear about it, because that once you have that clarity, and it doesn't have to be crystal clear, but have something you're driving towards, it'll make it easier and it'll get clearer as you figure it out. And it's okay to pivot. It's okay to take a pause and take a rest. And if you're feeling super frustrated with your business and you're just not sure where it's going, take a pause. And if you can, and I think coming back from that, you'll find much more growth from there. And I find that in any situation where I've gotten super overwhelmed or super stressed, the moment I pause and vote and like just reflect on it, I come back stronger. So that be my best advice. Set boundaries, know where you're going. It's okay if it's the wrong way you're going and you're not quite sure. Take that first little baby step and slowly and surely you'll get there.
I love that. All right. Final question is, where can folks find you if they want to connect with you, Lorie-Lyn?
I love it. I'm on LinkedIn, Lorie-Lyn Fernandes. I have my Instagram, Lorie-Lyn Photography, and my website, lorielynphotography.com.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
As always, if you enjoyed this show, please leave a review, because when you leave a review or share an episode, you make it easier for someone else to find us and benefit from these stories and tips we share. There is a link to everything we talked about in the show notes. Thank you all for listening to the Balancing Ambitions podcast, and have a beautiful day.